This little waffle is about automatic bilge pumps for boats. I've had an awful experience with bilge pump switches failing. It's a terrible environment in the bilges for any wiring or mechanical thing, and I've had all the major switches fail, or had experience of them failing. Dual, roll, whale, all the well-known names. They can pack up, and if these manufacturers dispute my claims, if they'd like to send me the postage, I'll return their faulty goods. The local club, I had a rummage through their bin and found 3 that had been replaced. One was near enough new. It's very difficult. I bought one cheap one, and that failed, and went down onto my boat, and the battery was nearly flat. The bilge pump was making a horrible noise. It was running dry, the bilges were empty, it hadn't switched off. I don't know how many hours, if not days, it had been running, and it didn't do that much good. And it used one of the better switches. Now the better switches tend to use Mercury switches. That's a large Mercury switch. Mercury is a conductor of electricity, and when the switch, the mercury goes across the contacts, the bilge pump switches on. Sometimes they're tiny like that. There's a little tiny bead in there of mercury. But they're not foolproof. I had one fail on that. Again, the pump didn't switch off. And what had happened there, if that pen represents the arm of the switch, it had tilted up because of the float had raised, because the water had raised, rainwater, and debris had built up underneath the arm and it couldn't fall back down again. So as far as the pump was concerned, there was water in the bilges, even though there wasn't. So I've gotten a bit fed up with this, and whilst there can be no 100% guarantee reliability, I think I've come up with something pretty close to it. And what I'm using is atmospheric pressure switches. These can be found in washing machines. They detect the level of water within the drum. Yes, we know that washing machines do pack up, but it's usually hoses broken, split hoses, or something leaking, or some other electrical fault. And you can always double up with these. I've never known them switch on and stay on, so that's something. There's different types. There's one here. They'll all have various connections on the back. If you set up a meter for continuity and attach a pipe, just gently blow. If you listen, you'll hear it click. And that's just me gently blowing down the pipe. So I'm using that principle to switch the bilge pump on and off. I could use some electronic device using perhaps 2 probes, that when the water covers the probes the resistance is measured and this switch is on. But they're not 100% reliable either. So the approach I'm taking is using these washing machine pressure switches. There's no moving parts, and it's just the pressure down the pipe that activates the switch. You can't draw too much current through these switches. Basically what they are is a diaphragm inside. On one side is a micro switch, and then you apply pressure and the diaphragm moves over to the micro switch. Well, the micro switches will only conduct a few amps at most, so I'm really looking at a small pump. I'm trying to eliminate as many problems as possible. Okay, we'll move on. This is the system I shall adopt for my boat, using our pressure switch. The bulb represents the bilge pump, and there's nothing more than a piece of tube, the pipe connected to the pressure switch or atmospheric switch. One end is blocked off. I'll temporarily put that on. This will be completely sealed. Hose clips will be around there. And then the water represents the bilges. This will be placed in the bilges, attached low down the bulkhead. And as the water rises slowly up the tube, The bilge pump comes on, pumps the water out, the water slowly goes down, and the bilge pump switches off. There are no mechanical moving parts, only a column of bilge water. I'd like to see that fail.